on today's After News, is Roman Reigns set to miss Money in the Bank?
Bayley teases a wrestling return.
Damian Priest reveals which NXT star he'd like in the Judgement Day.
And a released WWE superstar almost had a new gimmick.
I'm Adam Wilborn.
And I'm Phil Chambers.
And this is the After News. Let's start then with all the WWE news we're talking about today. If you're wondering why I thought you were talking about AEW, we did that earlier on today. You can go and check out that news video right now. But let's start with the big news about Roman Reigns, who could be set to appear next on a WWE Premium Live event.
What's my chair doing?
At SummerSlam, rather than Money in the Bank. There was a report recently about how Reigns is no longer being advertised for Money in the Bank, and Sports Illustrated's Justin Barrasso found out that he is no longer scheduled to be wrestling at that show. He'd of course been rumoured to be wrestling Riddle, who's called him out. I know Bobby Lashley's been dropping the champ's name, of course, recently, although he's off doing stuff with Theory, one would assume. And according to Barrasso, and I think this was later corroborated by possibly Meltzer off the top of my head, the decision to remove Roman Reigns from in-ring action at Money in the Bank was taken after they decided to move the show from the stadium to the arena and lessen the amount of people there. So they're effectively saving Roman Reigns for the two big stadium shows, SummerSlam and Clash at the Castle. Which is a bit of a shame, really. Don't get me wrong, I love Money in the Bank, but I think you could have had one of the biggest Money in the Banks ever, because you've got some phenomenal matchups potentially. You've got obviously the two Money in the Bank matches, which is two of my favourite things.
Always.
You've got Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair. You could presumably drag out Natalya versus Ronda Rousey for that one. You know, Theory could well be in action. There's lots of the Usos Street Profits, that could take place there as well, which would factor into the whole Bloodline versus just everyone.
Yeah.
But yeah, Roman Reigns no longer seemingly scheduled or advertised for Money in the Bank.
Yeah, it's a weird one, everything surrounding this Money in the Bank. Like, I love the ambition of doing the big stadium shows, 100%. Why not go for it? Did not work out though, did it?
Nope.
And now losing Cody, obviously a big blow to the show, losing Roman. And they're still kind of hyping Riddle's still saying he wants that match with Roman.
Yep.
When? If he's not going to be at this show, what's Riddle going to be doing now? Is Riddle going to win Money in the Bank? Do you think Riddle's going to win Money in the Bank?
I didn't think about that. See, I always assumed Riddle faces Roman, Riddle loses, Riddle gets murdered by the Bloodline, and who comes to save him but Mindy, who's going to fight for the world title at SummerSlam?
Yeah.
But that's apparently not going to happen. So maybe they'll do it on telly. Maybe he'll win Money in the Bank. I don't know. Who's your picks? If it's not Riddle, who's your picks for both Money in the Bank briefcases right now?
I don't know. It's a tricky
Heart
one.
overhead. We're not going to say.
Overhead.
We're not going to say. You know who we think is definitely going to be
wrong
picked
with Sami Zayn.
Yes, get on board, Phil. Get on the Sami Zayn train.
Initially, I wanted it to be Cody, and I thought do the 3 with Seth, wins that, and then he just announces his shot at SummerSlam or whatever against Roman. And obviously, that's not going to happen. So yeah, Sami would just be great as the Money in the Bank guy.
As a member of the Bloodline as well.
Yeah,
an
do you think
honorary
he
use.
could cash in his Money in the Bank to just become a member of the Bloodline instead of fight?
Can I have a t-shirt?
But as for the women, I mean,
I've got your answer.
There's a tease here that it could be.
She doesn't need it though.
She doesn't need it.
My argument always with Money in the Bank is give it to someone who needs it. I don't think he needed it, to be perfectly honest. I think he could have easily argued he deserved a title match eventually down the line, right? It's either someone who needs it to be taken up to that next level and not a superhero, right, for a gimmick for a week, right? And there's nothing against Nikki, obviously. That's just WWE's stupid decision-making, right? It's either someone who needs to be elevated with it or someone who's kind of dropped off a bit, and this can be rehabilitating for them. Sami Zayn is the guy for me with this. And on the women's side of things, I've got your answer, especially considering who one of the champions are. Shayna Baszler, baby. So you're telling me there's a chance? Shayna, just remind everyone, she's an MMA killer. And when she cashes that in, she's going to snatch the life right out of you. And Ronda's going to be there like, we're good, right? It's going to be like Bianca or Rhea who've got to be worrying about this.
It is insane how far Shayna Baszler has fallen since the days of the Elimination Chamber and running through everyone and the Great Rumbles.
I don't want to talk about it.
Imagine if they had that Shayna Baszler. The Elimination Chamber level Shayna Baszler.
The only bit her on the neck.
Going up against Ronda Rousey now. It'd be incredible.
Still my beating heart.
But anyway, it should be Bayley, because she's teasing a return.
Yes, please.
I guess she probably doesn't need it, but it'd be amazing if she did. So Bayley, yes, she's at it again. She's on Twitter, obviously, still teasing things. She does put up, no words, just a picture of the laces of her ring boots. God, I want Bayley back. She hasn't wrestled since June the 25th, 2021 was the last time she wrestled.
So not
WWE.
crowds.
Yeah, in front of crowds, that was like 2019. And that was a mixed tag match where she teamed with Rollins against Bianca Belair and Cesaro.
Cool.
So that feels like a very different world.
I don't remember
right
that
now.
ever
That was
happening.
only a year ago, and that was a very different world.
Yeah.
It's almost a full calendar year since we've seen Bayley on WWE TV, and my word, do I want her back.
Yeah.
That whole division misses her so much.
Especially with Sasha and Naomi.
Yep.
AWOL. Not through their fault, by the way.
Their fault.
It's all on WWE.
100%. Independent contractors. If you don't stand up for yourself, no one else is going to.
Yep.
But yeah, having Bayley back, be still my beating heart.
Picture this, right? Okay. It's the men's ladder match because I need to justify it. But they've got both briefcases there. Mustafa Ali climbs up to the top, right? He's about to grab the briefcase. There ain't no stopping us now. Let's celebrate on the floor. And Bayley, riding a Bayley bully, just rises up, grabs the briefcase. There's your booking, WWE. Done it for you.
Like some kind of magical dragon. Easy.
And then she kills the Bayley buddy and turns heel again.
Yeah.
Right, let's talk about the Judgment Day. Of course, big changes.
Or someone wins the briefcase, opens it up, and a baby bunny comes out.
Their face. Oh my God. So let's talk about the Judgment Day. Big changes for them, of course. Edge out, Finn Balor in, supernatural bollocks potentially. But Damian Priest has been chatting to TV Insider about someone else he'd like to see join the group. And that is one Santos Escobar from NXT 2.0. He said that Santos is great in the ring and well-spoken on the mic, and he doesn't look like a random person. He looks like a star, which means a lot in WWE circles, and Priest, of course, knows that fact. Santos, of course, just has been amalgamated on the rest with Legado del Fantasma into the family. Tony D'Angelo, as a result of his threesome winning at In Your House, now has brought them in. Santos had a fantastic match with, you might have heard of him, it's called Nathan Fraser. He was called Ben Carter elsewhere, and he is going to be one of the biggest stars in wrestling in the next 5 years, in my opinion. He is jaw-dropping. He makes NXT 2.0 must-watch telling, which speaks volumes.
Is rare.
But Santos has just been great for so long. He's been one of the few shining lights, in my opinion, in NXT and NXT 2.0. Whether he would work in this brooding stable, I don't know. But I just hope this is a sign that they've recognised that Santos is a star and could well be moving to the main roster soon.
Yeah, 100%. I
love all of Legado, by the way. I've Cruz del Toro won the only good WWE name change.
I am fascinated by this first sort of NXT 2.0 call-up and how it's going to go. Because the whole point of the rebrand with NXT 2.0 was to change it all so it fits more into the WWE system, so they're creating stars that they can actually use on the main roster. They're not just creating people who we love but Vince hates.
Exactly.
So how is that first one going to go? Who's it going to be and how will it go? I am very, very interested in finding out.
It's going to be Tiffany Stratton, and it's going to be epic. By the way, Tiffany Stratton has come on leaps and bounds, if you haven't seen it. I know I do a stupid Valley Girl gimmick. She's great in the ring. That final in the breakout tournament against Roxanne Perez, who's might be one of the people who comes up quite early as well, because she's just been great since she's arrived. Roxy, formerly, of course. Yeah, I'm excited. I hope it's Tony D. I hope Tony D brings the entire goddamn family to the main roster. But I don't know. Just take poor Roderick Strong.
I know. He's just such a
By the way, it did really well in the viewing this week, by the way. If you've not watched NXT 2.0 for a while because you think it's a load of bollocks, it's got really good recently. It has genuinely got really good. The Creed brothers are brilliant tag champs. Bron Breakker has moved on from the bollocks with Joe Gacy.
Yeah.
Apollo Crews, they're
Crews is
actually
back.
doing something with him there. But yeah, potentially Santos Escobar in the Judgment Day. Let us know your thoughts on that in the comments.
Indeed, but speaking of like repackages and call-ups, there was once upon a time a plan for a certain Harry Smith, you might know him as Davey Boy Smith Jr., of course, when he kind of had that weird little run where he kind of came back to WWE and then was used in dark matches. And
yeah,
then,
he worked house shows or something, didn't he? Yeah.
So he worked like a little bit behind the scenes, but basically he was doing an interview with Inside the Ropes, and he just gave a little bit of insight into what exactly was going on behind the scenes back then. So he was apparently going to debut on SmackDown with a new name and a new gimmick prior to being released last November. So he said he was having a conversation with John Cohn, who is the WWE Senior Management of Talent Relations.
And Nicholas's dad.
And Nicholas's dad. This was after one of the dark matches that he had before SmackDown, and they were all saying, "Oh, you're really great! Like this was absolutely fantastic! Like the next time we see you, you're going to be debuting on SmackDown." And then he didn't debut on SmackDown, and then he had another dark match, and Vince was like, "Oh, you're looking great out there, kid." And they're like, "Yeah, you're going to debut on SmackDown." And then he got COVID, apparently. So that kind of threw a spanner into the works, and he was out for about a month with COVID. But then when he came back, they just kind of completely forgotten about him for a bit, and he had no idea what was going on. And then they came to him with a plan, and he was going to debut on SmackDown as...
Go on.
The Stampede Stud.
What year is it?
I really wish this happened.
The Stampede Stud.
So, yeah.
Is that 2 D's in stud?
It's not, unfortunately.
It didn't work.
So he was going to come back as the Stampede Stud on SmackDown, and then that didn't happen, and he had no idea why, and they stopped calling him, and then he was released.
Blood of bollocks, that, isn't it? Because I really like him. He's really good, and he left WWE and then he worked in New Japan. He did a lot of stuff, didn't he?
Yeah, like New Japan on the Indies and things.
And yeah, like you say, it was just so surreal. Where we were like, it's David Boy Smith Jr.
WCW, of course.
Yes, David Boy Smith Jr. Backstage, and we see all these. I think we saw a WWE.com exclusive or something. I remember.
He was doing interviews. They were going to do a documentary about it.
Just went nowhere, and then he was just one of the names, along with many that got released.
Matt.
I'm still not sure about the stuff. The thing is, I was sitting here and I go, I'm not sure about the Stampede Stud. And this is not. Whenever I say this, people seem to think I'm having a go at the performer. I'm not having a go at the performer. I really like him. Dolph Ziggler. I know what the player they're doing, Dirt Diggler, and all that sort of thing. They put the world heavy with a big gold belt. They put that around his waist, not just the little. Oh, we'll put it on you for 10 seconds and then Edge can win it back.
Yeah,
he cashed in. People were like, yay, Dolph Ziggler.
I was there in the crowd for that cash in. One of the best live.
Butch. But I've just got used to it now.
Oh, yeah, it just makes sense.
He's fine, just Butch.
Whatever.
So who knows? Maybe I'd have been sat here 6 months down the line going, "Come on, Stampede Stud." But honestly, man, what? Can't I just have a name?
What goes on? I don't know.
I mean, I'm not saying call him. Here he is, everybody, Gary. But there's a. Here's Gary. Here's Stampede Stud.
There's a nice little middle ground. Stampede Gary.
Gary the Stud. Hey ladies, it's Gary the Stud. I don't know, man. But let us know your thoughts on that. I think he could have done great stuff for him, but maybe not with that name, because it's not the 70s. But still.
We'll never know.
Exactly. Let us know your thoughts on that and all today's news stories in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And subscribe to What Culture Wrestling, wherever you get your podcasts from, for daily wrestling podcasts, of course. If you're wondering when on earth the Twitter questions are, they're on the AEW news video from earlier on today, so do go and check that out and find out all about Will Ospreay arriving in AEW. Plus, you can let us know your thoughts and Twitter questions and ridiculous Friday Twitter questions on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE. Watch there, follow both of us. Follow Phil Chambers
at Phil My Chambers. Let me know if you know how to fix chairs.
Yeah.
And follow Wilborn at
Adam Wilborn. Follow us all at WhatCultureWWE, as I said. But for now, my thanks to Phil Chambers. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you soon.